Hey you guys, I'm so excited. Today I'm going to show you how to make this box over here. This is a walnut box with walnut and canary lid. I made this 3D effect. Super cool. Very happy with the way it turned out. And also there's another thing I want to show you by building this box, and that is how to make an interlocking lid. If you look at the box, you can't even see where the lid is cut. Everything is seamless. And the way the lid goes, it is two rabbits, one inner rabbit and one on the outer, and then they just overlap each other, kind of like a half flap joint, and then we get a perfect fitting lid. And I am super happy with the way this turned out. But if you're looking for a Mother's Day gift, or just a gift for someone, and you don't feel like making something, you can go to my website at www.skylarewing.store, and I have many other boxes and cutting boards and other stuff in there that you could purchase if you would like to support the channel. But this one is super cool. Very happy with the way it turned out. It's still wet, that's why it's a little bit shiny, and you can see my fingerprints because I just finished putting the oil on it. I have to give it another wipe now because I put my fingerprints all over it. And then tomorrow I will come back and finish it with the Sawdust and Splinters wax. But let's get right into it and show you how I build this step by step. Now the inspiration for this pattern, it comes from this table that I did in my very beginning of my woodworking. I made this table, and you can see the design, the star pattern is made all from these triangles. This triangle has 120 degrees over here, 30 here, and 30 here. Now this table is made from the same species of wood. This is aged pine, hard pine, and this one I milled it a little bit more, take it to the planer and sand it more so it has a fresher, lighter color, but it's the same wood. And I don't know how long it's gonna take until it all looks the same. But I use this design to make our box pattern. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go to my laser and cut my triangle pieces. So I'm going to cut two different color triangle, and they're gonna be about this size over here. I'm going to cut canary wood and walnut, and I have to make sure that I cut enough of them to have enough for my box. My triangles will be cut from 1/8 inch material, so something like this. I buy mine on Amazon. I have a good source for it. I'll put it in the link in the description below if you're interested. Also the pattern, the triangle design, if you cannot figure out how to make your own, I do have this pattern for download. I'll put the link in the description below if you just want to download it and you do not want to make it yourself. All right, so I already cut my pattern. So here is my walnut. I don't know if I have enough, but that's what I have. And here is my canary wood. And I already started put it together just to see kind of the way it goes. And so far it's looking beautiful. I went with the canary in the middle, made this hexagon with a star. And now I'm just going to put walnut all around it. And this is contact paper. I will show you. I buy mine on Amazon. It just looks something like this. And it's used for drawer lining. And it has this sticky backing paper. So you remove the backing paper, and then you tape your contact paper sticky side up on a piece of plywood. You could stick it straight to your bench, but I like to put it on a piece of plywood. That way I can rotate it around as I'm working on it. Makes it a little bit easier. So this is sticky, and that way the pieces are sticking to it. And when I put the pieces down, I make sure, they have that burnt side, like one side is cleaner than the other. I put burnt side up because this is the part that is going to receive glue, and then the other part, the pretty part, is going to be the real part that you will see it on a box. So I'm gonna keep going in here. Let me get you a little bit closer. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this is a very tedious part. It's not something you would make to sell, because you will have to ask for a lot of money for something like this, because it does take a lot of time. But it is so pretty. I love making it, and I find it somewhat relaxing while I do this. Now you have to make sure, these pieces are perfect. You do not want them to inch one way or another, because otherwise Every mistake it will multiply as you are making them, and you'll end up with one big giant mistake. So make sure that my burnt parts are sitting up. And just keep adding pieces. And I think my box is going to be 8 by 5. So I'm gonna try to get about that dimension. Working with the sticky paper really helps because it holds the design in place. And then also when you have to put the glue, it helps because it stays together, doesn't fall apart. You could make the pieces bigger. The pieces I made for the table, I cut them with my miter saw because they're quite a lot bigger. But for boxes, you know, if your project is small, the design needs to be small. Otherwise, it just looks weird. And I have here, let me show you. On this side, I have, this is a book pressing machine device thingy, and it's for binding books. And it turns out that that is a fantastic tool for pressing this stuff when you glue them. So that's what I will be using. And here is our design. All done. It took a while, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out, especially when it's all glued up and sanded. I think it's gonna look fantastic. So I'll be gluing that to a 1/8" Baltic birch that is already veneered with walnut. So that's what I'll be gluing it to, and I'll be using Titebond 2 dark wood glues. Since I'm working with dark wood, I'll use dark wood glue. And really easy glue up. Be putting my piece of plywood straight on it, just like that. I'll remove the tape. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put some tape on the edge of my board here, just to prevent that glue from marring my plywood. Since this is plywood, I cannot sand it. I'll protect it with some blue tape. And then I'll take that whole piece. This is what it's looking like on the front. I'm gonna leave this contact paper here until the glue is dry. And then over here, where is my book pressing tool, I'm gonna take out the one I've been pressing. You can see this one from Aromatic Cedar that's been pressing in there. And first I will put some paper towels on the bottom. I'll put maybe 2 of them, just to kind of even out the pressure on my inlays. Like that. Then I'll take my piece, stick it in there. Maybe I should put some parchment paper on it. I need a little bit bigger piece. My piece is in, and now we clamp it. And we let it sit for a few good hours. Now, a little bit earlier, I came here and I did remove the shelf adhesive from this side, and just because I didn't want to get stuck too much, and I really wanted to see what the design looks like. So this is what is looking right now, and I am super happy with it. Now we'll just have to make a box, and then we'll cut this to the size to fit for the lid. We'll need to do some sanding and so on. But look how cool that looks. I almost wish I put these pieces were walnut too and just leave the star to be the canary. But it's done, so I can't change it now. For this box, we'll start with this piece of walnut. This is a piece of walnut, nothing special about it. It's a 1/2 inch thick, and it's 3 3/4 wide and about 30 inches long. And before I chop it into pieces to make the box sides, we want to go to the router table and we want to put a rabbet for the bottom. That's how it's going to hold the bottom in place. And then we also want to put a channel, a groove all along the side. And that is for making the interlocking lid. I'll show you exactly how that works. Let's go to the router table. So here at the router table, I have a straight bit in. It's about a 1/2 inch, I believe. And I'm gonna use that to create the rabbet on the bottom. So I have to look at my piece, determine which one is the inside and the outside. I think I'm gonna choose that to be the inside. And then any preference for bottom or top. All right, I'm gonna say this is the bottom. So I will need to run this piece like this and create a rabbet on the side. Now to create a rabbet, I need to move my fence close to the bit. So I don't need my rabbet to be the whole width of the bit. So maybe just about, let's see. Let's start with that, see where that takes us. It's about 1/2 of the width of the bit. I'm gonna tighten my fence. And I'm going to lower the bit. That's too much height. We'll take it in smaller passes. That way we don't get cheap out. So what I will do is run this board through here, see what kind of rabbet I get, and then I'll start raising the bit until I get about halfway through the material. And that's how we'll create the rabbet. Without me stopping and explain to you what I'm going to do next, I'm going to tell you now so that way I don't have to stop the dust collector and keep taking breaks. Next, after I do the rabbet, I will be moving the fence further, about 3/4 inch from the bit, and I'll be running a groove with the same router bit, about 3/4 inch, a groove all the way on the length of this board. And that's what we're gonna use to make that interlocking lid. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Let me move you a little bit out of the way so I don't bump you while I run the router. And let's make a rabbet and a groove. All right, so here's what we have so far. We have the rabbet for the bottom that will accept the bottom panel. And then I put this groove over here. That's what's gonna separate the lid from the box to make that interlocking lid. And then I have to leave a decent amount of room over here because that's what I need to make a groove to accept this panel for the top. So I wanna make sure I have enough room so, you know, it doesn't break or anything and it's all good in there. So now to make the groove for that panel, I am going to do this at the table saw. So let me put the router table back and we'll move to the table saw for the next step. To make the groove for the panel, I'll do it at the table saw, and the first thing I need to do is move my blade about half of the thickness of my material. Something like that should work. Now, as for how far from the top, let's see what it looks right. I'm gonna do it 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna start my groove a 1/4 inch. Now the blade is 1/8 inch on thickness, and my panel, obviously it's a lot thicker, so that means I'll have to take a few passes. So I'll take one pass, make a groove, and then I'll move the fence away. Yes, away from the blade, and take another pass and keep checking until the panel fits nicely into the groove. All right, now it's time to cut this piece of walnut into pieces. So I will start cutting from this side. I'll be cutting my pieces on the miter saw first, and then I will take them to the table saw and we'll cut the miters. So I'll start from this side. I'll start with a long piece. So I'm gonna make my long piece. I'm gonna cut it at 8 1/8 because I'll be losing about 1/8 inch when I do my miter. And so 1 1/8 for the long piece. I will cut it, then I'll cut 5 inch for the width, then another 8, and then another 5 inch. So I'm gonna go cut this into pieces, and I'll see you right back. All right, I cut our 4 pieces that will make the box sides, and I labeled them as I cut them, so I make sure that I know which order they're going, so we can get that nice grain wraparound. So now that we have our pieces cut to size, I'm going to set up my sled, and I'm going to move my table at 45-degree angle for the blade, and then we'll cut the miters. All right, you guys, here we are at the table saw, and the way I will do this, I'll do them in pairs. I'll do the 2 long sides first, then I'll do the 2 short sides. And that is because my first cut will be cutting a 45 degrees on one end, and I'll do that for both pieces. And then I'll go on this side and I will set a stop block, and I'll do the other 45 angle. And by using the stop block, I make sure that both of these sides are going to be exactly the same size. And that is why I allow myself an extra 1/8 inch, because I'll be cutting 1/8 inch shorter. That way my miter will be perfect. I make sure that both pieces are perfect. And if you have bad miters, most of the time it's not because of your blade, it's not at 45 degrees. Most of the time it's because maybe your pieces are not completely the same size. So they have to be exactly the same size. So I'm going to cut these miters, and then we'll talk more about what the next step is. Now it's time to cut this panel to the correct size. And if you don't know how to look on how to cut the panel to size, if you look at your groove, you will see where your miter ends. So it basically needs to go from that to that. And my panel is, way bigger. Now, when I cut the panel to size, I have to be careful and cut a little bit of each and keep trimming from both ends, because I do have a design in the middle and I want that to stay in the middle. So I'll cut a little bit from here, a little bit from here, a little bit from here, until it fits into the panel correctly. And I'll do the same thing for the width. So I am going to go do that, and then I'll see you back. I'm going to clamp a straight edge to my bench. That would help with the alignment of the panels. So let's do that. And then, because I number my pieces, makes it so much easier to, continue the grain. You know exactly which piece comes after which piece. So it's gonna go like this. And we have nice continuous grain. So set them into place first, and then add some blue tape. I am pulling a little bit on the blue tape when I put it on, just so it acts like clamps. So now on this side, I will put some blue tape on where the miters are, just to protect it from glue. Let's see, I can't put it where the panel is going in. You see, if I was smart, I would have put the blue tape before I cut the groove for the panel, and that way it was more protected in there. But I am not that smart, so this is the way we're doing it. For the glue, since we're working with dark wood, I'm gonna use the Tide Bond 2 Dark, and that's what I'll be using. Normally, I wouldn't glue in the panel, especially if it's solid wood. This is plywood, it's not gonna expand. But I did, however, when I cut it just a little bit short. So it's not too short, like you won't be visible, you know, it still will be completely enclosed into the, you know, sides. But because it's a little bit short, it might wiggle a little bit inside there. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of glue to lock this in place. So let's start gluing this up. Am I forgetting anything? Yes, I am. This is what I'm forgetting. Remember where we cut the groove? Can you see? Remember where we cut the groove for the interlocking lid? I need to mark it on the outside so I know where to cut it to detach the lid from the base. So I'm just going to continue this line over here. Let me see. Can you see that? I just continue. That's where I need to cut it. So I'm just going to mark it on the outside. So that's my mark. That's where I need to cut it to detach the lid from the base. All right, that is good. Now that we have that marked, we can start gluing this thing up. It looks beautiful. Look at that. Definitely some glue squeezed out in there. One trick for cleaning glue squeeze out is to take a straw, cut it at an angle, and then let's see if I can show you. You see I have this glue squeeze out here in the corner. This straw will allow you to get in there and scoop it all out. It gets into the corner a little bit at a time. So here is what I'll be doing now. I'll be putting a band clamp in here to hold it tight. The blue tape, it's enough, but I always like to put a clamp just to make it tighter. And what I don't like is that I have too much of a lip here. This is too tall compared with where the lid is. So I will be sanding that down when it's all dry. But for now, I'm gonna put a clamp, let it dry, and while it's drying, I'm actually gonna work and cut a piece of walnut that it will fit in here, and I want it to be just a little bit taller than the rabbet, so that when the box sits on the ground, it has that little shadow line. So that's what I'm gonna work on right now off camera. I just cut a rectangle that will fit here into this rabbet. You know what, you guys, I just realized I didn't need to mark where I need to separate the lid because I do have a tiny piece of leftover from that board that was 30 inches. So this one, I can use it as a template and see exactly what I need to cut to detach the lid from the base of the box. So keep that leftover, do not throw it out. I cut a piece of walnut. This is a 1/2 inch, and I did sand it and broke down the edges, sanded smooth the edges and stuff. And I'm going to glue this to the box right now just because I don't want to have to keep waiting on these steps. I'm gonna glue it up and then I'm gonna let the glue dry, and I'll see you back in a few hours where we'll separate the lid, we'll put another outside rabbet to make the lid close, and then we'll put a finish, and hopefully we'll have a nice box. All right, our box is dry, and it's time to detach the lid from the box. So we'll do this at the table saw. The safest way to detach the lid from the box is to do it on the bandsaw. I do have a bandsaw, I could do that, but most of you guys probably do not have a bandsaw, so we'll do it at the table saw. Now, when you do it at the table saw, you have a few options. One, you cut 3 sides, and every time you cut, you put an 1/8-inch strip on the cut, just to kind of hold it open and not close on you and the blade. And that's the way you cut all 4 sides until the lid comes apart. So that's one way to do it, using 1/8 inch. The other way to do it is to slowly raise the blade until you're almost cutting through, and then finish it with a handsaw. I don't want to use a handsaw, so we'll do the other method. So let's go to the table saw. Remember, I do have the offcut, and this is going to be super handy, because now I can put this side against the fence, and I can put my blade to cut. It's not focusing, right over there. So that way I know exactly what I need to cut to open the box. So I'll set the blade, and we'll cut the lid open. All right, so we successfully separated the lid from the main box. And as you can see, because we put that groove before, now we have this rabbet on the inside of the box. I do have to clean all that glue squeeze out from the corners. So I'll be doing that, and then as far as the lid is concerned, what I will do is take it to the drum sander and sand some of this top, because it's too tall in regards to our lid. So I'm just gonna make it so it's a lower profile. I still want it to stick above my design because that's part of the structure of the lid, but not that much. So I will be taking that through the drum sander and take that down. And then for the box itself, we got a pretty clean cut, but here we have just a tiny little bit of stuff that needs to be sanded. Now you have 2 options. You can sand it on a board. I'll show you my board over here. on a piece of plywood or MDF, you can stick some sandpaper and then just rub the box on there until it removes it. And that just assures it that, you know, it sands flat, because if you just use an orbital sander, you might make this deeper than this, and then when you put the lid, it doesn't look flush. So because I have a drum sander, I will be sanding mine through the drum sander, and I'll take care of the lid and clean the glue, squeeze out, and I'll see you afterwards. All right, you guys, I finished sanding. I remove all the glue squeeze out, and now we have a box that is flush. The lid and the box, there you go. You can see it's looking really, really nice. This side too. So everything looks nice, but now we have this inner rabbet into the lid, so we need to do an outer rabbet onto the box, so that way it's kind of like a half flap joint, and one will sit on the other, and that's how we get our interlocking lid. So let's see how we do that. I need to measure how deep is this rabbet, because if I make the rabbet on this taller or deeper than this one, then the lid is going to sit proud and we have a gap in between. So we want to make sure we make the rabbet on this shorter than the rabbet on this. So for that, I'm going to quickly measure here, and it looks like it's about, I'm gonna measure in millimeters because it's easier on this one. It's about 9 millimeters. So this one, it's about 9 millimeters. So I need to make my rabbet. I'm using the same straight bit that I used before, and I need to make this one 8 millimeter or even 7 millimeter. So I'll be using this gadget over here, super, super handy. And the way it works, I'm going to put it right here on the plate, put this down and zero it. So there you go, now we are at 0. So let's see if I put it on top of my bit now. It tells me it's 6.35 millimeters. So I could raise it a little bit more, but we don't need it to be exactly against this piece of wood over here. So maybe that's good. I think we should try that. So let's see. I'm gonna try that. So now we have the height of the bit. I'm gonna move this. Let's see how this is going to go. The box is going to go like this against the bit. And what is going to give me a good fit is the distance between the bit and the fence. So we need to go this much distance so these guys will interlock. All right, so what's gonna happen, I only put here just a few millimeters to give me a rabbet of a few millimeters. It's probably not gonna be enough, but my fence has this micro adjustment that I can just move it backwards, just tiny, tiny little increments by using this knob over here. So I'll be making a pass on all 4 sides with the setting that I have right here. And then I will start moving the fence a little bit backwards with this micro adjustments and take bites slowly until these guys fit together perfectly. So that's the way I will do it. This is the part where I could really screw it up. Let's see how we get going. As you guys saw, it took me a long time to get the perfect fit because I went tiny, tiny little increments at the time, but it paid off. Look at the beautiful, you can't even see the seam. You see how perfect it just went on? You can't tell where the lid is. Absolutely perfect. So what I will do now with 400 grit sandpaper, I'm just going to kind of soften the edges. You need to do this to every project you do, box, table, whatever it is. You don't want to leave those very, very sharp edges because that is prone to splintering and breaking, and it just doesn't feel nice to the touch. So you don't want to like round over, but with 400 grit, just soften the edges, and then we'll come back, put the finish on this and see what it looks like. For the finish, I will keep it simple. I'll put some of this Walrus furniture finish. It's an oil finish, so I'll be putting this saturated today, wipe it off, and then tomorrow I will come back with this Sawdust and Splinter Carnauba wood finish and polish, and I will be putting some of this wax on it just to finish it off. And just like that, our box is finished. I think it looks spectacular. Look at that. Very, very happy with the way it turned out. The light is not the best. It has this like reflection because the box is still wet. I just finished wiping the oil on it. So hopefully, I don't know if I shield it maybe. Hopefully you can see how pretty it is. Now I hope this was helpful and you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skylar Ewing and I'll see you in my next video.